Travis Wayne Goodsell. Yesterday was a huge bombshell of a news breaking news from the LDS Church, and you guys aren't flocking to it. And so I'm going to try a third time now to present the information to you in the hopes that you'll finally catch on about the big breaking news story by the LDS Church. Most of you are aware that Nelson changed the temple endowment ceremony. Many parts of the text were changed. Also, the law of chastity was changed. Here is the change. The original law of chastity was that each of you shall have no sexual relations except with your husband or wife to whom ye are legally and lawfully wedded. Now, I was criticizing this because the church is practicing bigamy, even though they're no longer practicing polygamy. Those of you who are Mormon are well aware that when you get divorced, the women are still sealed to her husband, her ex-husband now. And she has to then get permission from her first husband in order for her to remarry. And the first presidency have to approve all of this and then approve her new wedding to the next guy. Whereas previous to Monson, because under Monson that also changed, so that men also had to go back to the first wife to get her permission for him to remarry, but it didn't require her cancellation of the sealing between them. And so she then becomes the first wife, even though she's the ex-wife, giving her approval for other virgins. If you don't know Section 132, that's what it's all about. 10 virgins for polygamy. That's what's unique about this original law of chastity, was that legally and lawfully wedded required government approval of the marriage, so that you couldn't do polygamy. You shouldn't technically do bigamy, but because the church doesn't recognize the state for divorce, they have no choice but to allow marriage from the state, the United States, or any law of the land in other countries. And so Nelson changed this. He took that all out and reworded it. So the law of chastity, which is that the women of God's kingdom and the men of God's kingdom shall have no sexual relations except with those to whom they are legally and lawfully wedded according to his, capital H, law, referring to God's law. What is God's law of marriage? Do I need to remind you guys of Section 132 again? That's the polygamy chapter. And I've gone over how the church claims it's Joseph, but it was not put in until the last year of Brigham Young's life. And with this change and addition, they took out Joseph Smith's monogamy chapter on marriage, and they took out Section 131 that again confirmed the highest degree of the celestial kingdom is obtained with monogamy. They replaced both of those in the Doctrine and Covenants with Section 132 and claimed that Joseph had this written. And they had this written with Joseph so that the law could not take it out, like they took out John Taylor's revelations. Because John Taylor was promoting polygamy, and the United States said, well, he's not the founder, so yeah, gotta go, can't be in your Doctrine and Covenants. And so that's why those were taken out. The FLDS branch-offs claim John Taylor's revelations on polygamy to justify continuing polygamy when Wilford Woodruff betrayed them with the official declaration. But yeah, there were still scandals as the church was not stopping the practice, and eventually were disincorporated. Well, they were disincorporated before with the Edmunds-Tucker Act, but Reed Smoot hearings had to be involved, and lots of chaos because the church was refusing to stop. And I think Official Declaration 1, which is on polygamy, is not the official declaration originally. It was a reboot to ensure the government, and that was what's been put in. And so, yeah, Section 132. Let's see. Verily, thus saith the Lord unto you, my servant Joseph, that inasmuch as ye have inquired of my hand, to know and understand wherein I, the Lord, justified my servants Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and also Mose, David, and Solomon, King Salem, my servants, as touching the principles and doctrine of their having many wives and concubines. Let's see, those who have this law revealed unto them must obey the same. Let's see, I reveal unto you a new and everlasting covenant. And if ye abide not that covenant, then ye are damned. For no one can reject this covenant and be permitted to enter into my glory. So there's a contradiction of Section 131. Plus, it contradicts the Book of Mormon, which said that King David and Solomon were wicked with the extra wives. I believe it was Jacob talking about Lehi's commandment to the family. Let's see. It's pertaining everlasting covenant. So yeah, you get the point that polygamy is a law and is the only way to get into the highest degree of the celestial kingdom, and yet contradicts everything Joseph Smith taught and did and etc., despite all of the people who were accusing him after Brigham Young made it public in 1852. And so what we have as a result is yesterday the first presidency gave an official statement, and it seems to be slipping the Mormon attention span, as they're not catching on to it, as this is a huge deal. Let's see, Richards, there we go. A message from the First Presidency on changes to the Temple Endowment, 20 July 2020. Salt Lake City official statement from the Deseret News, or not the Deseret News, the Church News on the church's website. You have to go down into Newsroom, click on that, and then you'll find it among the lists of First Presidency, message from the First Presidency on changes to the Temple Endowment. The First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints released the following message on Monday, July 20th, 2020, about changes to the Temple Endowment ceremony. The sacred teachings, promises, and ceremonies of the temple are of ancient origin and point God's children to Him. as they make further covenants and learn more about his plan. I coughed because I know all about the Egyptian temple ceremony. And no, ours is not. Ours is the Freemason ceremony mixed with Brigham Young's additions. They don't want to tell us that. And point God's children to him as they make further covenants and learn more about his plan, including the role of the Savior Jesus Christ. Through inspiration, the methods of instruction in the temple experience have changed many lives. And let's see. Hold on a second. I'm getting the next scripture ready for you. Helaman chapter 6. Okay. Even in recent history, to help members better understand and live what they learn in the temple. Shut up and learn your place. That's what it is. They don't want you telling anything that goes on in the temple. Part of the temple experience includes the making of sacred covenants or promises to God. Most people are familiar with symbolic actions that accompany the making of religious covenants, such as prayer, immersion of an individual at baptism, or holding hands during a marriage ceremony in the patriarchal grip, or sure sign of the nail. Similar, simple, symbolic actions accompany the making of temple covenants, which come from the Freemasons, not the ancients. With a concern for all and a desire to enhance the temple learning experience, recent changes have been authorized to the temple endowment ceremony, giving the sacredness of the temple ceremonies. We ask our members and friends not to engage in speculation of public discussions about these changes. Rather, we invite church members to continue to look forward to the day when they may return and fully participate in sacred temple work prayerfully and gratefully. And so they're talking about changes. What does the thumb represent symbolically? And what people don't understand is the origin, because it's changed since Brigham Young, as he had additional background or additional parts to the ceremony with the other parts that were previously in the temple, and they just took out certain parts here and there and left behind the reminders. So let's see. Where is it? Yep, there it is. Helaman 6:22. And it came to pass that they, and that's the secret band of Gadianton that had infiltrated the Nephites and rose up into power and dominated, corrupted their whole society. And it came to pass that they did have their signs, yea, their secret signs, and their secret words, and this that they might distinguish a brother who had entered into the covenant, that whatsoever wickedness his brother should do, he should not be injured by his brother, nor by those who did belong to this band, who had taken this covenant. See, Joseph Smith did not have covenants in the temple. He had the new and everlasting covenant of monogamous marriage. He had the covenant of baptism, that you are willing to take upon yourselves the name of Christ, and that you will clothe the naked, feed the hungry, and heal the sick. But no law of obedience, no law of the gospel, no law, oh, I forgot sacrifice, then gospel, no law of chastity, no law except for monogamy. That was in monogamy as understood. And no law of consecration other than the economic system of consecration. And if you've been to the temple or you've read online about the law of consecration, then you know it's a loyalty oath accompanied by the penalty of death for violating it or disclosing it to others. And thus they might murder, plunder, steal, commit whoredoms, and all manner of wickedness, contrary to the laws of their country, and also the laws of their God, which is interesting because that means that they are wolves in sheep's clothing, that outwardly people see them as religious and followers of God, but inwardly they have these secret signs, secret words, secret covenants that violate the laws of God. Sort of like Helaman with the temple. Exactly. And whosoever belonged to their band should reveal unto the world of their wickedness, and their abominations should be tried, not according to the laws of their country, but according to the laws of their wickedness. They've got their own judges in place to punish people who violate the secrecy oath and the penalty of death. So this was huge news, guys. And you may be thinking, well, why are they changing this now? They just changed it. Why couldn't they change it with the other previous change? Why now? A week after somebody filed an objection in a lawsuit against the church that discussed exactly the point talked about in the temples, about the covenants and Helaman's secret punishments for those who leak it. And yesterday was the final day for which both parties had to file their objections. The plaintiff filed his last week on the 13th. And yesterday, Nelson did this statement on the website. He confessed. And in his confession, it was done by retracting some temple stuff that they got exposed for in the lawsuit against them. That's confession. If you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to change. Only when you're doing something wrong do you have to make changes. And this is a huge story, guys. Why are you not catching on? Oh, wait a minute. I might want to put that Helaman thing in the description below. Alrighty.